Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 5th Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Induction Banquet. I'm Stan Savran. I'll be your MC for the evening. You know what MC stands for, mostly clueless, but I'll do the best I can. It's really nice to be here. Of course, given my recent employment situation, it's nice to be anywhere. Do me a favor, you don't have to laugh at any of the jokes. You don't even have to be quiet, just don't yell "for" while I'm standing up here. I really want to thank Coach Knight for not canceling this banquet, too. All right, I'll get the chair. Just keep the chair away from him.
I told my players as we were getting ready to play Florida State in the first game of the regional, we'd already canceled the banquet in Bloomington, and I said, I want to tell you what you guys better keep in mind in this game tonight. If we get beat, you're going with me to Altoona to a game.
If I'd have known that, I've been rooting like hell for you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you at this time one of the two men most responsible for putting this banquet together every year and for really putting the Sports Hall of Fame together. Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, of course, is one. And the president, yes, give him a hand. And I must say, Steve, I've seen your latest commercials. For crying out loud, you're getting more airtime than I am.
I should. I'm better looking.
You are better looking, that's true. We ain't exactly killing the competition with good looks, that's for sure. This man has worked tirelessly to put, again, not only the banquet, but the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame on the map and into existence. It's my pleasure to introduce the president of the association, Steve Sheets.
These big guys, I got to pull that down to my height. Thanks, Stan. You know, this is our 5th induction ceremony, and Stan's been with us for each one. And I think has really done an outstanding job for us and helped us to build a solid program each year he's been here. We thank you for that, Stan.
Thank you for having me.
As those of us who reside in Blair County know, this is a great place to grow up, to raise kids, and also to live. And for some reason, and I'm still not sure why, Blair County's also brought forth a lot of great athletes. And tonight we're going to honor 5 of our finest. You know, this is the first time we took a year off, having held our last dinner in 1990. And one of our fears was whether or not we could maintain that momentum that we had built up during the first 4 years. Well, it's obvious we've still got the momentum. We've got 685 people here tonight, and we had about 300 or 400 requests for tickets we had to turn away. The support for the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame has been great, and we thank all of you. It's a great thrill to be able to honor our sports legends and watch them get their well-deserved day in the spotlight. And I thank the media for your great coverage as well. I'm sure you've noticed the faces of all of our inductees mounted on the balcony railing. This is the first time that we've done that, and I think it looks great. We hope to continue that practice in the future. I'm confident that these faces will one day hang in our permanent Hall of Fame. We're still looking for a structure to house our memorabilia, but we're really in no hurry to find it. We want to make sure that it's the right fit for us. Those of you who have attended in the past know that my secretary, Nikki Barnes, has been chiefly responsible for putting all the details of this weekend together. And unfortunately, Nikki is suffering through a real difficult pregnancy right now and can't be with us. We certainly wish her the best. I do want to thank Sharon Bush for her help, and also want to thank Neil Riddell for all of his efforts. I want to thank the other members of our executive committee as well as the selection committee for their work, and also Donna Hilling and her staff here at the Lakemont Casino. This is always the largest event they do year in and year out, and I think they do a fine job with it. And finally, I want to thank you for your support. Without you, we really couldn't put this type of program together. And I think we've got another great program, so sit back and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Coach, we were going to ask you to thank the media, but we thought we'd let Steve do it. A little more fitting. I guess I come from the old school, probably because I'm old, but growing up, owning a title in boxing was an honor and a privilege and something to be respected. Not, unfortunately, what it's turned into today in some circumstances. It takes a lot of courage to be an athlete, it takes a lot of courage to compete in anything, but it takes a lot of courage to climb into a 4-square ring in your underwear and have someone try to beat you up. I've always believed boxing is a noble sport and an endeavor. Our first presenter is a boxer who boxed with and against our first inductee. Bob Parks is here to present Dave Stoop. He boxed with and against Mr. Stoop at Penn State. He currently operates Parks Poultry Farm in Juniata Gap. It's my pleasure to introduce, for induction, Dave Stoop, Mr. Bob Parks. Bob?
Thanks. It's a great honor for me to be able to present this award to my lifelong friend, Davey Stoop. I calculated that I must have boxed about 150 rounds with Davey. It seemed like a whole lot more than that. And they were all painful. You know, Davey came over to Penn State as a freshman when I was already a sophomore, but he had already had won more fights than I had ever seen. And it was sort of a case of him being the mentor and me being the student. But one of the times we were going at it pretty hard, I threw a wild punch and Davey went down. And I said to myself, I wish I hadn't done that. So I quickly got into a clinch and I hollered in his ear, sorry about that, Dave. Dave didn't say anything. Dave never said very much outside the ring. You couldn't hardly strike up a conversation in the ring. Anyhow, on the way home that night, he said to me, Bob, he said, don't ever apologize for what happens in the ring. He said, when I'm in the ring, I'd kill my own grandmother. I thought I knew what he meant, but I found out about a month later. We were matched against each other for the intramural championship. And after 3 rounds, these guys that were the judges must have been watching the same fight that I was, but they called it a draw. So that required an extra round. That extra round was the longest couple of minutes of my life, Joe. Anyhow, I promised to cut it short, so I have 2 letters here that I want to give to Joe that came from Davey's friends who would like to have been here and would have been here under other circumstances. The one is Davey's former roommate and fraternity brother, Julius Epstein. Julius and his brother Phil both boxed in the Penn State teams, and after they graduated, it was the Depression, and they tried out for professional boxing. But they found a much easier way to make a living. They started writing stage plays for Broadway, and they were so successful they were invited to Hollywood, where they wrote more than 50 movies, and some of the greatest of all time. You all read a review about a week ago of the picture Casablanca. Well, it was Davey's roommate that wrote that movie. And I have this letter. I promised not to take more than 4 minutes, so I'm not going to read the letter. I'm going to give it to Joe. But I also have another letter here from another Penn State boxer who was quite famous, and that was old Billy Seuss. Those of you who followed boxing remember that Billy Seuss was one of the greats during the 1940s. Now, when Billy started to box, Billy had a grandma too, and she saw him boxing one time, and she said, Billy, you're going to have to quit hitting people so hard. You're going to hurt your poor little hands. Now, Billy didn't listen to his grandma, and he kept hitting people harder and harder, and he finally became the middleweight champion of the world. Those of you who followed boxing remember Billy Seuss. Well, Billy wanted to come up here this week, and it was just because he didn't listen to his grandma that he didn't come, because he did hurt his hand. And when I saw him last year, he had 2 fingers going one way and 2 fingers going the other way. He said he was going to get that hand operated on. And it just turned out that the surgery for his hand happened last week. So he explains that in this letter, Joe. I'm going to give them both over to you. I see my time's almost up, and I thank you.
Bob, I am pleased to accept this. I am pleased to accept this prestigious award for Dave. I believe that many people in the audience may not be aware that Dave cannot be here tonight because he has Alzheimer's disease. Dave presently resides at Garvey Manor. And I may add that he is well taken care of. In addition, I would also like to say that I want to gratefully acknowledge the recognition and honor given Dave on this memorable occasion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoop. Our next presenter and I have something in common. We're both from Cleveland. Don't boo. I had no choice in the matter. As a matter of fact, this gentleman was a two-time All-American wrestler at John Carroll University, which is located in a Cleveland suburb. Ironically, he went to a high school that is my arch rival. I went to Mayfield, Tom. So don't give me a takedown on your way by. A two-time All-American wrestler at John Carroll University. As a matter of fact, at his high school, Brush High School in suburban Cleveland, they named the wrestling weight room after him. He had such an impact on the program there. To present his father, Tom Corbo Sr. for induction, may I present the presenter, Tom Corbo Jr. Tom?
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's great to be back in Altoona. Everything's fine in Cleveland. I'm sure you're all concerned about that. But the Corbos have made Cleveland their home for over 40 years, and I can't just understand why 80% of the people hate Cleveland, and the other 20% just plain can't stand it. But it's really a great place to live. Today is a happy day for the Corbo family, a true celebration in which we salute our father, Tom Corbo's induction into the Blair County Hall of Fame. Buff Dinelli, my dad's coach at Duquesne in Cleveland, was going to do the honors today, but he's recovering from heart surgery, and we wish him well. We were lucky to have a great father, and if time allowed, I could talk about him for hours. He was our inspiration when we were growing up in Cleveland. How proud we were to have a father that had played pro football. Cleveland was a football town, and everybody talked football. Obviously, I never had the privilege of seeing Tom Corbo play football, except in the old film clips. It was a different era, the 40s, leather helmets and shoulder pads. Players played both ways, offense and defense. No face masks, no AstroTurf, no indoor stadiums, and unfortunately, no big money. They played for fun and they played to win. Forget about air travel. There was no air travel. So they rode the trains coast to coast, and they'd stop to practice along the tracks. Our uncles told us of how they traveled by train to Chicago to see him play football. And he played against such greats as Bulldog Turner. Tom Corbo was a hard hitter. How do I know? Well, every time I walked by him in the home, I had to have both feet solidly planted or he'd knock me silly. And if I asked him, what did I do wrong? What's that for? I'd say, that's just in case you do something. So, his best techniques, I think, were revealed to us as kids during our annual Easter trip to Altoona. With 8 kids in the station wagon, my mom and dad would head off. By the time the 7 boys and 1 girl reached the PA border, all sorts of fights and commotions would break out. The fighting would be settled by my dad with one hand on the wheel and the other one swinging, shouting, "Sit down and be quiet." Although I don't think he used that language, but all 7 of us boys did play football. I think we were better trained for boxing with all that ducking. But in all seriousness, if you wanted to learn a lot about life by example, all you had to do is observe him work. He taught school, coached, and was athletic director, worked 2 jobs during the summer to support our large family of 10. He never pushed us to go into sports. He wanted us to want to have the right to go out on our own, and that's very important today. He taught us perseverance. His story is how told a story about how over 200 people tried out for the Duquesne football team. And his dad and brother came out and said, "Tom, let's go home. It looks hopeless." He said, "No, I'm going to make the team." And he did make the team. 16 players made the team. And he went on to be an undefeated senior that year. He taught us sacrifice. He never had a new car while we were growing up, and taught us that, there's things that are more important than money. He taught us to do right. When in question, just do the right thing. It worked as all of us got involved in school and sports and took the right path in life. If you looked in the Corbo dictionary under Tom Corbo, you'll find the definition of hero, winner, father, educator, football player, and gentleman. He's a tough guy with a heart of gold. Thank you.
And stand right here if you could and face this direction.
That's it.
That's a real good speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here this evening with my wife Annette and family as a recipient of a prestigious award. I want to thank Steve Sheets, the president of the Blair County Hall of Fame, and his committee for this great honor. I want to thank my brothers Dominic and Fred and my sisters Jenny and Anna for their support. I'm only sorry that my mother and father and my brothers Joe, James, and Nick Jr., cannot be here with us this evening. May their souls rest in peace. I want to give special thanks to my football coaches and teammates from Roosevelt Junior High School, Coach Norton, Altoona High School, Snaps Emanuel, College of Marshall, Texas, Sue Hamill, Duquesne University, Buff Donnelly, and the Cleveland Rams, Buff Donnelly. I could not have made it without all these wonderful people. Thank God, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Corbo, and congratulations. How many kids in that station wagon?
8.
8. I'm sure at one time there was a phone call, "Mr. and Mrs. Corbo, we found your children at Cleveland Stadium, and they're beating the Indians 6-1. We come to the portion of the program that oftentimes is electrifying, not only because of what it's all about, but the presenter. Here to present this year's scholarship awards, Mike Irwin. Mike?
Well, thank you very much, Stan. I've been warned on numerous occasions to keep it short. So I promise you I'll be available about 11 o'clock or 11:30 this evening if you want any other comments or stories. But really, it's not my night. On behalf of the Scholarship Committee, it is an honor for me to present to you the 1992 Blair County Hall of Fame Scholarship winners. First thing I would like to do is thank the other selection committee members, Mr. Jim Lane from the Altoona Mirror, Terry Lingenfelder, who was originally from Claysburg and now works at Central Bank, and John Stoltz from Holliesburg with the Stoltz Agency. This is the 5th year that we presented $1,000 scholarships to 2 Blair County high school student athletes. And over the 5 years, we have now had 5 out of the 8 Blair County high schools represented. The first scholarship winner is our female recipient from Holliesburg Area High School, Ms. Swati Agarwal, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Ramesh Agarwal. Swati. To give you a little of Swati's background, she's ranked #1 in her class and has been for her 9th, 10th, and 11th grade years. She scored over 1,300 on her college boards and has a grade point average in excess of 100%. I think Holliesburg better change their system. This happens every year, and I could never understand how you could get more than 100%. Swati will end her career with 4 letters in tennis and 4 letters in softball. She was the District 6 1991 singles champion, and she was also a first team all-star selection with the Holliesburg softball team, which won the District 6 championship 2 years ago in 1989. She's a class officer and also participates in the band. She also finds time to be involved in the drama club and has had a couple roles in The Wizard of Oz and South Pacific. Swati plans to attend Duke University. Ladies and gentlemen, our 1992 scholarship winner, Ms. Swati Agarwal.
Although that this award has my name on it, it was only by the work of many others that made this possible. As long as I can remember, my parents have allowed me to explore any horizons that I was interested in, and be it on the tennis court, on the softball field, or even in the classroom, they always taught me to be my best and to try my hardest. They've always been very supportive and encouraging of any of the decisions that I've made. Similarly, many others have helped to create the person that I am today, my teachers and my coaches. As a high school senior, I can reflect back on my 12 years of schooling and realize the impact that those educators have had on me. Although they're too numerous to mention, to list by name, I'd like to thank them for the knowledge that they've imparted to me, for without them, my academic life would be incomplete. I'd also like to thank my many coaches that have taught me to become the competitor that I am, specifically my high school tennis coach, Mr. Miller, and my high school softball coach, Mr. William Brill. They have taught me how to be competitive, how to be a leader. They've taught me about teamwork, and they've taught me the importance of both winning and losing. Many of my accomplishments up to date would not have been possible without these individuals, and they're the ones that have given me the chances and the opportunities to be the person that I am today. I'd also like to thank my athletic director, Mr. Dean Rossi, for nominating me for this award, and I'd like to thank the Blair County Hall of Fame, the president, Mr. Steve Sheets, and the committee for selecting me for this prestigious honor and scholarship. And I hope to continue my success next year at Duke University.
As a Bishop Guilfoyle graduate, I'm very honored to present to you Bishop Guilfoyle's first Hall of Fame Scholarship Award winner, Mr. Ed Steinbugle, son of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Steinbugle. Ed? Ed is only ranked #2 in his class, and he has a more realistic grade point average. Realistic to some of us. He has a grade average in excess of 92%. In addition to having perfect attendance record at Bishop Guilfoyle, Ed had a perfect match on his college board scores, scoring 610 in math and 610 in verbal for a total of 1,220 on his SATs. Ed was the captain of the 1991 BG football team, which played for the District 6 Class A championship. Ed has been honored for his achievements by receiving the Tall Cedars Award, as well as being named to the first team of the Altoona Blair County All-Star team. Ed is a member of the National Honor Society and is also involved in other community and civic activities. Ed plans to further his education at St. Francis College, where he has received a presidential scholarship. May I present Mr. Ed Steinbuch.
I'd like to thank the selection committee for this honor. It's very happy to receive it. It's very prestigious. I'd like to thank Mr. Tomer, my coach, for the last 3 years. I think besides being a great football coach, he's also a great friend. I mean, you know, he's a great person, not just on the football field, but off the field. And I'd especially like to thank my parents for their support over the last 18 years, raising me to be the person that I am today. And I'd like to thank them a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Congratulations to Ed and Swati. I want you to know that neither one of those kids had a note. Now, the rest of us grown-ups here, we got the whole thing written out. I started working on mine last July, you know, and they're up here and just rattling it off. And Swati's 1,300 board scores, that is the cumulative total, the entire starting five of UNLV. So she's to be congratulated. Our next presenter, Bill Minnick, is a native of Mount Union. He played with our next inductee, Steve Hatfield, at Shippensburg. As a matter of fact, Mr. Minnick authored a book about the glory years of Shippensburg football, and those of you who've been around for a while will remember those years, 40s and 50s. Here to present Steve Hatfield is Bill Minnick. Bill?
I feel bad about notes. He made me feel bad about notes. I first met Steve Hatfield October 7, 1942. My hometown of Mount Union played Bellwood Annis at Bellwood. In case anyone in the audience isn't familiar with Mount Union, it's a small borough 50 miles east of here where things are so damn slow the Juniata River only runs twice a week. We were 3 hours late getting to Bellwood that October day because of a train delay. It was fine with me because I wasn't too eager to be slaughtered. The Mount Union Trojans were on a losing streak. We were so badly beaten in games before Bellwood, there was an attrition of the squad that reached alarming proportions. The coach had to suit up 3 freshmen to reach the number 24, which the school had reserved on the train. I was one of those freshmen. I was about 5'10" in height and weighed about 135 pounds. Over a period of 64 years, I've always been at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was born a few years before the Great Depression. Mother and Dad had 7 children, and we had to fight for food at every meal because we all had this gnawing feeling that it might be the last supper. And I had to be a freshman in high school when Steve Hatfield was playing football for Bellwood. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time in the middle of the 4th quarter at Bellwood. As a result, Steve Hatfield ran over me. I didn't meet Steve again until 1948, but I still remembered his running over me in 1942. I entered Shippensburg State Teachers College in the fall of that year. This meeting found me with much more confidence than I had in 1942. I was just out of the United States Navy, 20 years of age, 5'11" in height, and weighed 190 pounds. I had rationalized that the reason Steve had run over me in 1942 had to do with my youth and weight. In the first inter-squad scrimmage at Shippensburg, I was playing a defensive end. The offense ran a play my way with Steve carrying the ball. Damn, he ran over me again. It was at this juncture in my life that it dawned on me that Steve's constantly running over me had nothing to do with my height or weight. Instead, it had a hell of a lot to do with his athletic ability. I wasn't the only person that Steve ran over. I remember a game against Indiana State Teachers College in 1949. The Indians came into Shippensburg with a tangerine bowl in their hands if they could beat the Raiders. One of the coaches at Indiana was Peck McKnight. He had been a coach at Hershey High School before going to Indiana, and he took a young athlete from Hershey with him. The boy's name was Spinagle. His brother received All-American mention as an end at Pennsylvania during this same period. Spinagle hit Steve head-on during the game, and they carried him to the sidelines. The young man was writhing with pain, and all the while Coach McKnight was standing over him saying, "We warn you all damn week not to hit that man head-on." The impact of the collision left Spinagle with a broken shoulder. Steve Hatfield is the greatest athlete I ever played with or against. One only has to look at his exploits to see the immense athletic ability this man possessed. I often think about what would have happened had Steve been able to compete in a decathlon. His track results are all chronicled. Try to imagine an athlete weighing 185 pounds in high school and setting a state record of 12.4 in the pole vault in 1943 using a bamboo pole, and what he could do with the fiberglass poles of today. Competing in 3 college championships, he won 4 individual titles, finished second in 2 others, and third in another. He also set a college record in the pole vault with a leap of 12.8. This is all the more amazing when you consider his 225 pounds. Such was the athletic ability of the man you honor tonight. Age gives us memories, so we can have roses in the September of our years. Blair County honoring Steve Hatfield into their Hall of Fame tonight has to be a bunch of roses to Steve in his 68th year on planet Earth. I'm pleased to present to you for induction, Mr. Steve Hatfield.
First of all, I would like to thank Steve Sheets, his executive committee, and his selection committee for honoring me with an induction into the Blair County Hall of Fame. Second, I would like to sincerely thank an old classmate of mine at Bellwood Annis, Mr. Howard Walker, for submitting my name for consideration by the committee. You will never know how much this means to me and my family. To be compared to the likes of Earl Strom, Mike Reed, Troy Benson, Otto Nottinger, and others, very humbling. I'm not sure I measure up, but I'm sure I surely appreciate the gesture. I have many fond memories of Altoona and the neighboring towns and townships. I played football at Shippensburg with Earl Strom, Jack Hopper, Bill Madden, Dutch Turchetta, Buster Spake, Jimmy Coe, and Danny Gobrath, and Bill Mennick. I played baseball on the old cricket field and participated in track and field all over Blair County. The most meaningful thing about all of this participation is the fact that the men I played with or against, I still call my friends. Those relationships have stood the test of time, and I feel richer by having had the privilege of being able to compete with some of the finest athletes in the history of Blair County sports. Again, I thank everyone who had anything to do with bringing about this honor tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Hatfield, there's no doubt you measure up, sir. Congratulations. This is the 5th installation banquet we have conducted, and after tonight there will be 28 members of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame, several of whom are with us in attendance tonight. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce them and ask them please to remain standing until the spotlight finds you. As Andy Warhol said, everyone's in the spotlight for 15 minutes. Yours is going to be more like 15 seconds tonight. But please remain standing until we find you so we can properly acknowledge you. 1990 inductee, Fredina Ifford. Fredina? '90 inductee, Dick Bartholomew. There's no way the spotlight can miss this guy. 1990 inductee, Brad Benson. '89 inductee, Harry Spook Temple. Did you find him, or did I just miss him? Oh, okay, there you go. All right, thank you, sir. 1988 inductee, Bill Parsons. '88 inductee, Earl Strom. '88 inductee, Bob Ramazzotti. And I still remember the grilling this poor guy got from my good friend Jack Ham. 1988 inductee, John Ebersole. Back here, yeah. Can you step out a little bit, John? Can you step out a little bit so the spotlight can find you? Yeah, I know you're hiding under that balcony. Ham is not here. It's okay, you can step out. And one more, not an inductee into the Sports Hall of Fame yet, but since we did not have a banquet last year, we wanted to acknowledge a gentleman who took St. Francis to its first tournament, NCAA tournament appearance 2 years ago. And of course, the team that had Mike Isolino on it, who's now doing so well with Dallas, the coach of St. Francis, Jim Barron. Jim? Our next presenter, I suppose, again, it's a function of age, that if you don't walk up to him and say, hey, aren't you Danny Shays' father, that you're probably too young to remember. I, fortunately or unfortunately, remember Dolph Shays when he was a great star in the NBA, one of the first great stars of the NBA. He is Danny Shays' father, who, of course, is now in the NBA and played at Syracuse, but I do go back. He scored 19,000 career points in the NBA and was the first player in NBA history to reach the 15,000 plateau. He played, and a record that still stands, by the way, in 765 consecutive NBA games. Now, you know the rigors of the NBA schedule. That's better than 9 years without missing one. He is a member of the National Basketball Hall of Fame, inducted in 1972. He coached in the NBA and was named the NBA Coach of the Year for guiding the Philadelphia 76ers in 1966. I don't want to make him feel badly by saying he's one of my boyhood heroes, but Dolph, it's true, I'm sorry. But here to present Jeff Neuman is Dolph Shays.
Well, thank you, Steve. You gotta love it. I mean, you really gotta love it. You know, after you play in all of those basketball games, you really gotta love it. I love the game of basketball. To me, it made everything for me, but you know, along the way, besides the game, which by the way is having its 100th anniversary this year, and is the most popular game in the world, and it's getting more popular. It's the greatest game ever. Along the way, you meet terrific people. Jeff Neuman tonight, Bobby Knight, and just talking about the game. And Bobby Knight, we've talked for about a half hour now. We've covered 50 years. And we've come to the conclusion that Michael Jordan is the greatest, well, present company excluded, of course, is the greatest player of all time. And Bobby said, you know, he is the greatest player of all time because he does something incredible. He can get up in the air and make decisions. And I played against a player like that once in the late 50s named Elgin Baylor. And when I played against Elgin, I used to hold him to an average of 42 points a game. Because I knew exactly what Elgin was going to do. He'd give you a fake, and I wouldn't go for it. And he'd always go to his right, and I'd always go to the right with him. And he'd jump up in the air, and I'd jump up with him. Then I'd come down, and he'd still be up in the air. And that's what Michael does. He can get up in the air and make those decisions and just hang and hang and hang. And he is the greatest of all time. But I want to talk to you about another person today. I'm really pinch hitting for his college coach. Jack McCluskey coached him at Penn and was Jeff Neuman's coach there. And I didn't know too much about Jeff. I only had seen him a couple of times because I was coaching the Sixers at that time, but I was too involved with trying to get Wilt and Greer to do their job. But I knew that Jeff could play the game. And here's besides playing the game, Jeff was also epitomizes one thing. And let me tell you this very, very old story, which I think makes the point. You know, this is recruiting time. And this old story is about this recruit going to a Catholic school, and he goes with his coach. And the coach says, they sat down with the head priest, and the priest says, I want to give you a couple of questions. It looks like you're on the team. We want to make sure that you've got some credentials. So the priest asked this recruit, where was Jesus Christ born? And the recruit said, Harrisburg. I said, no. Where was he born? And the recruit said, Altoona. And well, the priest said, we're not going to take you on our club. And then they go outside, and the coach says, didn't you know he was born in Bethlehem? He said, do you know, I knew it was somewhere in Pennsylvania. Well, that's a very, very old story. But Jeff Neuman epitomizes what the NCAA is trying to prove over and over again. Scholar athlete. This is a guy that they should put on those halftime blurbs showing the type of kid that the NCAA and college ball brings out. This is a guy who, after his basketball career was over, became tremendously successful in business, and now that he's practically retired at the age of 42 because he's done so well, he's giving his time towards a lot of cultural pursuits, giving money to charity, and helping others. And I think that's something that the NCAA should look into as a possible person. But let's talk about his basketball. Jeff played in the early 60s, mid-60s for Penn, all Ivy League. Greatest fast break, one of the greatest fast break guards in the country. He relates today to Bobby Hurley. When you see Bobby Hurley play, you're looking at the type of player Jeff Neuman was. He was the brains of the club. He got the ball to the right guy. He made the right decisions. And another great thing about Jeff, about girls, by the way, he's still a bachelor. And although, if you have any serious intentions, he wants a prenuptial agreement. I just want to tell you that. But here's a guy, he's Major League, he's Division I, he's All-Star. Here's the one and only Jeff Neuman.
Thank you, Dolph. I want to thank Steve Sheets and the committee for honoring me this way tonight. It's wonderful to see so many people from my hometown. Dolph said that on his flight in, he talked to a woman on the plane saying, well, what is famous in Altoona? What's Altoona famous for? For each city has something well known. And obviously, the woman said to him, well, it's the horseshoe curve. But anyone who is born and raised here knows that when you're away and you come back, there's one thing that Altoona is famous for. And today, my family, my brother and my sister and uncle and cousins met and had power lunch at Texas Hot Dog. Dolph mentioned how much he loved basketball and how much it's his life, and I didn't know there was anything else when I was growing up. It was everything I lived for. My first memory was being taken to the Jaffa Mosque to be able to watch the great Maurice Stokes play for St. Francis, and from time to time to be chosen to play in a special 10-minute game in intermission. One time I was playing in a game, I was 8 or 9 years old, outside somewhere, and I was invited to play at halftime, so I hurried up, got my father to drive me to the Jaffa Mosque, went into the locker room and changed. And then I realized I forgot my shoes. But that didn't matter. I went out and I played, I had a hell of a time, and I was sliding all over the court, but I just had to play. And this feeling continued for the rest of my life. I had to play. And when you love something that you're doing, you can be playing poorly, you can be disappointed, but you just must play, and you have the discipline and the desire and the love to just keep playing. I began in junior high school at Roosevelt with my teammates, Dick Leipold, John Myers, and Dave Costello, and under Frank Mastercola, and we spent the next 6 years together, and it was a wonderful time. Frank ran us like crazy. We were exhausted after practice. So Dick had, I think, a 1935 Lincoln, and Dick and John and Dave and I would get in the car, get a bite to eat, and go outside Altoona somewhere to a little town and play all night. And on weekends when we were free, it was Saturday night to go out, but we pooled our money, rented a gym at a church, and played all Saturday night. The next major event was my senior year. I was being recruited to go to colleges, and I pretty much decided going to Dolph's University, NYU, but Jack McCloskey and Dick Harder invited me to come down to a weekend at Penn. And I got to Philadelphia, and I went to see the Palestra for the first time in my life. The television didn't carry the games. We didn't know the rest of the world so well. We were pretty well insulated. And I got to the Palestra, and I couldn't believe it. It was 9,500 people every night. This night there was a doubleheader and a Big Five game. And in halftime I met McCloskey, and I wasn't going to leave. I had to come back to graduate, but I couldn't wait to get there. And then began 4 wonderful years at the University of Pennsylvania, and with wonderful success. And in that period, I began to see the world. In 1965, I was invited to play in the Maccabiah Games, and I went to Israel. And I was 21 years old, and it was the first time I saw anything outside the country. And it was wonderful. And we played against 20 teams from all over the world, and you meet people who have the same interests, the same love. They speak a different language. They have different perspectives, and it's the most magical thing. It's a common language. The Brazilians are speaking their language, and we're speaking ours. But I remember one time I was watching the Brazilian team play, and there was a wonderful player, and they didn't have much money, and his shoes were taped up, and they were playing the game. He was about my size, and after the game, I just went over, and we couldn't talk, and I told him to come with me, and we had all the equipment. We were a well-sponsored team, and I had an extra pair of shoes, so I gave him a pair of shoes. And we said thank you, but we couldn't talk anymore. But the next day I come back to my room, and there's his warm-up uniform, 2 pounds of coffee, everything else he had. It was unbelievable. He was so taken by what I had done for him, and I gave him his warm-up uniform back, and I was happy to take the Brazilian coffee. And this is the kind of experience that you get all through your life as athletes. It's a common thread between us. After Penn, I played in the Eastern League a little bit. I spent some time with 2 NBA camps, and then I played in one U.S. international team, and we toured all over Western Europe, and we played the national teams of Russia and Czechoslovakia and Spain and Italy. And this was fantastic because there were 10 or 11 other players from all over the United States who I'd never met before, and all wonderful players. And we got together so well, and we had this feeling to win for our country, and it was no longer how many points you scored, or it was just to win. And you play the Russians, and we get excited and nervous before the game, and we play the Czechs, and we root for each other, and it was wonderful. And I did this for a number of months, and the next year I went to Belgium, and I played for a Belgian team for a while, and that was another experience. Before coming here, I went to the International Basketball Federation in New York to remind myself of some of my own records, and I saw that what I had said between 1966 and 1969, I held a record that stood until 1983, that I had thrown the ball away against more European teams than any player in the history of the game. 3 years ago, I was traveling in South America, and after Brazil, I decided to stop in Montevideo, Uruguay. And Dolph, I'm not 42, I'm 47 now, but thank you. Anyhow, 3 years ago, I pulled into a hotel, a nice hotel in Montevideo, and as I was checking in, I looked in the restaurant, and I saw a group of obvious athletes, I mean, big, young 20-year-old players, Hispanic, but there was one 6'8" black American with his wife and two children who stood above all of them, and it looked like Orlando Woolridge, just powerful. So after I dropped my clothes in my room, I came down, and everyone was dispersing from the table, and I went over and I said, "Are you playing ball here?" He said, "Yeah, I'm living in Argentina, but one of the teams in Uruguay hired him for the last month of the season to play for the national championship." So we talked a bit, and I say 20-some years ago, I played in the Eastern League and in Penn, et cetera, et cetera. And we said goodbye. And the next morning, there's a knock on my door, and he said, "Look, it was Thursday night. Tonight, tomorrow night, and if we don't win these two, we have to play Sunday, but it's a 2 out of 3 for the national championships. And on the days of the games, we always go to the stadium at noon for a shoot-around. Why don't you join us?" Before he finished the sentence, everything was packed. I was downstairs, and I went with the team. I stayed with them 3 days, and we had shoot-arounds, and we had competitions, and it was wonderful. It reminded me of what I'd missed so much. It's the camaraderie about the players. You go to take a shot, and you get a little, someone touches you in the stomach, and you forget about these things, but these are the wonderful things about playing. And what I didn't think about was, here's another country I didn't throw the ball away in. So with this country, I might have kept my record alive a little bit longer. Anyhow, thank you very much for this honor. I'm very happy to be back here to see my friends, and thank you again.
I've always liked our next presenter. I have no idea why, until recently, and I realized that the reason I like Foge so much is that he's actually had more jobs than I have, so, and that's saying something. You know, Foge Fazio, of course, was the head coach at the University of Pittsburgh. He has since coached Notre Dame under Lou Holtz, the Atlanta Falcons, and now an assistant coach with the New York Jets. But I still think he's more closely identified with college football, where he undoubtedly was and still is one of the most brilliant defensive minds in the history of college football, and I mean that sincerely. I think the thing I liked most about Foge when he was the coach at Pitt, he would not buckle into the influence peddlers, the boosters who think with their cash donation it gives them the right to call a play on 3rd and 5 or decide whether to zone or play man. We don't need those people in college athletics. Unfortunately, they always seem to find a way in. But Foge wouldn't stand for it, much to his everlasting credit. I consider him a friend. Pitt and Penn State, when the rivalry was really nasty back in the late 70s and early 80s, during those years, some of you may remember I announced Penn State football, which put me in a rather tenuous position in the Pittsburgh market, especially working for the station that carried the University of Pittsburgh. And I'll never forget Foge Fazio sending me a letter during the year he was head coach and said, "I think you've been eminently fair to the University of Pittsburgh. I appreciate your character and your standards," and I've never forgotten that. He's an outstanding man, pure and simple. And here to present Troy Benson for induction is Foge Fazio.
If you're wondering why I'm up here perspiring, the Italians get a little hot when the lights are on them. That'll take a little while. Anyhow, there's a lot of blue out there. I don't know if that's blue and white for Penn State or blue and gold for Pitt or Notre Dame. Whatever, they're all three great places. I almost went to Penn State. Joe Paterno's recruiting me at the time. Joe tried to pass himself off to my mom and dad as an Italian, but they had him figured for an Iraqi even back then. I was very fortunate that I had an opportunity to go to the University of Pittsburgh, where I have 2 degrees. And then after Jeff, University of Pittsburgh tried to retire me at 48, but unfortunately I still have to work. And then I had an opportunity to go on from there to Notre Dame and then into professional ranks. I want to thank Troy Benson for inviting me back here to have an opportunity to see so many friends that I've known throughout the years, whether Pitt, Penn State, or Notre Dame people that I have met and traveling up here from different times. But this morning I opened up the newspaper, the Altoona Mirror. In a corner it says, the Hall of Fame brings back Foge Fazio. Hey, I only got fired, I didn't die. Anyhow, I see Brad Benson sitting, and Troy will take care of this man.